2, 3.
My ear.
Okay, welcome to the intro episode of Smark Mania. I'm Mike, and this is my lovely wife.
I'm Andrea.
All right, Smark Mania is going to be a show about pro wrestling and how we love it. I'm a longtime lover of pro wrestling. Andrea is new. Last year, randomly, around last year's WrestleMania, I saw an ad for WWE Network, and you get a free trial, so I signed up. And it was crazy because we saw the retirement of Undertaker, and that night show just brought me right back into pro wrestling. I was like, oh man, I gotta watch this all the time. And my wife has been watching with me, and I think she is secretly beginning to love it.
I am entertained for sure.
So I think we're gonna be watching a whole lot more of it. You'll get a perspective, my perspective, of somebody who's been wrestling fan all my life, and somebody who is more new to pro wrestling. I'm guessing you didn't watch a lot of pro wrestling growing up.
No, I did not.
I watched it every week on Monday Night Raw, and then when SmackDown came out, and then around the mid 2000s, it kind of fell off. Didn't like it as much. Didn't like a lot of the storylines. All my favorite wrestlers, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, they were all leaving. So for a good amount of period there, probably like a 10-year period, I wasn't watching. But I'm glad wrestling pulled me back in. There's a lot of good wrestlers now, and I love watching. And since we're going to get a perspective of somebody who knows wrestling and then somebody who doesn't, I want to play a little game of Do You Know? So we can find out just how much you know about wrestling, since we know I've been a lifelong fan.
Okay.
We're going to play little games to see how much you might know.
I'm excited to play.
Okay, so this first game of Do You Know I want to play is, do you know pro wrestling jargon? So do you know terms? So I'm going to throw out a term.
Probably not.
Yeah, I'm guessing you don't know a lot of them. So I'm going to read you a term, and then you try to tell me if you can think of what that means, or if not, then just pass, and I'll tell you what it is, and then we'll tally up your score at the end here. Okay. So the first one term is angle.
Pass.
Okay, so for this one, I would say, you could say like this character, you'd be describing a character's angle or the angle of a storyline, and an angle is a fictional storyline.
Oh.
Okay, and then yes, and so our next term here is babyface.
Baby face.
Yes.
Does it mean they look young?
No, that is not what a babyface is in the terms of pro wrestling.
For wrestling, does it mean they're new?
No.
I'll have to pass then. I don't
Okay, there we go. So a baby face, or you might even just call somebody a face, is the good guy in the storyline.
Oh. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Why?
Why? I don't know. I didn't. I'm not the one who made it up. I couldn't tell you, but that's what we call them.
Okay.
They're the face or the baby face.
All right.
Okay. So next, and I did these in no particular order. I mean, I didn't make a particular order, so I'm just going through terms in alphabetical order, and I got all these definitions. I picked them up, the official definitions I got from Wikipedia for these terms. So the next one is blow off.
Blow off.
Yes.
Oh. Does it mean they blow somebody off at some point? Like,
Nope.
did they get mad at someone? Did they go all like steroid crazy?
No, that's not what a blow off is.
Then I'll have to pass.
So a blow off is the final match in a feud.
Oh. Okay.
That's all that is.
I'll try to remember these.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't. There's a lot more terms than what I wrote down. These are just some ones that I figure
Mhm.
you might hear more often.
Oh.
So, my next term I got here is a bump. Do you know what a bump is?
Is it when they bump into another person?
Kinda. That's getting.
Is this like a tag team thing? Like bump?
No,
No?
getting further away. Getting further away.
Is it when they. No. Do they shove? Do they.
You're getting a pretty literal term.
That's too literal.
Yeah. So I'll just tell you what a bump is. A bump is when a wrestler hits the mat or ground. They take a bump. It's when they, are getting thrown on the ground. They're taking a bump.
I'll have to pay attention to the announcers. I don't.
Well, these are like terms that, somebody who knows wrestling and is
Oh.
aware that wrestling is,
Mhm.
not entirely real, that these are terms that you would know.
Oh. Well, I never wrestled, so I don't know.
Right. Okay, so the next is a card. What is a card?
A card is. Oh. I want to say it's somebody who is.
I'll just tell you no.
Good. No? What?
Nope.
What?
You're not going anywhere near that. So
It's not a person?
no, it's not a person.
Is it a match?
There you go. Yes. So a card is the lineup of matches for the night. You would be like, oh, on tonight's card, and then you would look down the list, and it would give you all the matches for that night. They do the same thing for boxing matches, or like MMA matches. Like it's a card.
Okay.
Okay, so the next term I have here is cheap heat. Do you know what cheap heat is? Don't be trying to peek on the list here, cheater.
I can't see your list. Cheap heat?
Yes, cheap
Is it
heat.
someone with an inflated sense of importance?
Yeah. Somebody who's using cheap heat probably would use that sort of, persona.
Yeah. So it's just I can't think of the word. You can go ahead and just say it.
Okay, so cheap heat
blanking.
is when a wrestler incites a negative crowd reaction by, like insulting the crowd or,
Mhm.
Does something that would obviously make people boo him.
Yeah.
Like saying
Okay.
like, oh, this city sucks, or, oh, the football team in this city sucks, something like
Oh.
that. Something that would, make the fans in that particular city want to obviously boo him. Like, a given example would be like Elias right now in WWE. When he gets out there and he starts playing guitar and then he starts singing and he's like, making fun of the city that he's in. That's cheap heat.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next term is cheap pop. Do you know what cheap pop is?
Cheap pop would be. I'm gonna pass. I don't know what cheap.
So it's
pop
the
is.
exact opposite of cheap heat. Cheap pop is going to be when a wrestler incites a positive crowd reaction by kissing up to the crowd. Like, somebody would go out there and be like, oh, this is the best city I've ever been in, or, oh, this crowd is the loudest crowd I've ever heard. This is the best crowd ever. Kind of thing, Okay. What would you say chemistry is? It's not a trick question.
Chemistry?
Yes.
Does it have to do with people?
Yes.
Does it have to do with, I don't know, wrestlers who are against each other?
It could be, yeah. That's kind of the term I'm going for. So chemistry, yes, it's when, you know, when two wrestlers work well together.
Oh, just work
You
well
know,
together.
in the ring,
Oh,
in the
okay.
ring. You know,
Yeah.
performing whether they're performing in the ring, doing moves, or like they,
Oh.
you know, a lot of times they have, um, they set up the little skits where they have to like yell at each other or something. Like they might have good chemistry, even though they're, you know, two people that are playing the fact that they're supposed to hate each other, but they
Mhm.
might have good chemistry, you know, like because they're acting. So you can be
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, I believe that because they have good chemistry on stage there, you know, or
Okay.
like, oh, those they perform moves really well together, like it's believable because they have good chemistry, like they know how to do each other's moves, make the other person look good when they're doing a move to them, so that it looks more real. Okay, so next term I have here is what is a closet champion?
Someone like an underdog,
No.
closet champion.
Yeah.
Is it a wrestler who is going to be champion?
No.
A wrestler who is already a champion?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This person is already a champion, but they're a closet champion.
They don't. They're more humble.
No.
Um, they're more. Out there. My stomach. Excuse me.
No, they're no more there. So I'll tell you what a closet champion is. A closet champion is the current title holder who ducks top competition or cheats to keep his title. So, you know, like there's a, you know, if somebody's a champion, this is usually somebody who's a bad guy. And so, you know, when the people who are the best wrestlers challenge them, they'll say no, but then they'll accept a match to somebody who is a nobody and then just beat them all the time. Or when they finally have to get in a match against somebody who's really good, they will find a way to cheat to win that match because they know they would lose because the guy that they're going against is, you know, playing a character who's a lot better wrestler. So they would either, you know, do something to cheat when the ref isn't looking, or they would just like leave the ring and get counted out and disqualified because even though they lose the match, the way the rules are, you can't lose your champion in, you know, by disqualification or count out. So
Okay.
they would cheat just to stay champion. They're, you know, they're being a closeted champion.
Sounds about right. Well, can you name a wrestler who is a closet champion?
Trying to think if there's anybody that currently that you would know that we've been watching that has.
Current or past?
Well, we'll find out more about past wrestlers soon, just to find out who you know and who you don't know. But I'm trying to think of anybody who's current who does that. Can't think of anybody off the top of my head, so we're gonna move on to a double turn. Do you know what a double turn is?
You turn somebody. You turn somebody.
No.
Wrestler. Is this a move?
This is not a move.
Is. I don't know.
Okay, a double turn is when a heel and a babyface switch roles during an angle or match.
Yep.
So there's
I didn't know that one.
Yeah, so there's one guy who's a bad guy, one guy's a good guy, and then some point in a storyline or even during the middle of a match, all of a sudden they switch places and the guy who was a good guy all of a sudden is doing something where he's looking like a bad guy now, and then the good guy and then the bad guy is doing something where he's a good guy now.
Okay.
So the two people have turned.
I haven't seen that happen yet.
No, we haven't seen that happen. So, do you know what a draw is?
A draw.
Mhm.
Somebody give up, saying
No.
I forfeit.
No.
I don't know.
Okay, so a draw. So I'll give you one more clue. It refers to a wrestler, like he would say. Um, I would say the Miz is a draw for me.
I can't. I don't know.
Okay, so
Is he
A dr-
popular?
yeah, it is exactly like that. So a draw, somebody who has draw, is a wrestler who attracts audiences' attention, and or like fans would want to pay to see him. Like he draws a crowd in.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go next. Our next one is enforcer. Do you know what an enforcer is?
Is that somebody who body slams people? Are they like big, heavy? They enforce themselves onto others.
Yes, they would do that. That is what the enforcer would do.
I don't know. Then is it a type of persona?
Yeah, it's a type of persona.
Is it? I don't know. I want to say they enforce rules, but I don't think that's.
Well, sometimes actually, yeah, that is part of it. I'll give you that one. So an enforcer is a wrestler who accompanies another wrestler and acts as a bodyguard. Sometimes, not only that, sometimes an enforcer, there'll be like an enforcer match where they have like a special guest referee, and the special guest referee is referred to as an enforcer. Like there might be two wrestlers that are fighting each other, and then they get some another wrestler to be the referee for that match. Like they might set up like, oh, these guys feud so bad you can't. They feud so bad that you can't just have a normal referee in there because it might get really ugly. So we got to put another wrestler in there to be the referee. So if it gets really bad, he can, break it up.
So I just got to pay attention to you more when you're talking during wrestling, because I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point of this show. We're getting a perspective of a couple different people. The guy that's been a fan for a long time, and the lady who's new. Yeah. Okay, so next, I wrote down face, but we already went over that.
Okay.
So, well, I'll automatically give you that one. So next one is a fighting champion.
A fighting champion?
Yes.
Is it the champion who actually fights and plays by the rules to win?
Yes, that would be what a fighting champion is. This person is not their opposite from, the closet champion, because they are taking on all comers. They're not cheating to win. They're going against all the top competition, taking on all challenges. They're not trying to run away and hide to keep their championship. They're actually going to fight and, be a fighting champion. Like right now, I would say, I don't know if you've watched the last couple episodes of SmackDown with me, but right now with what's going on with AJ Styles, he's got to fight at the next WrestleMania. He's got to fight Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in a handicap match for his championship belt. Oh, and I should say right now, at the time of we're recording this, this is before we have watched Raw 25. This is the week of Raw 25. We haven't watched that yet, or SmackDown this week. So if anything has changed by the time we post this, because by the time this gets edited and posted, it will be after those episodes have occurred, because this is just our little intro episode. But as of I know right now, that's still what's going on, is AJ Styles is going to fight Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Ooh. Nice.
Okay, so next what I have is a finisher. Do you know what a finisher is?
I know. I've heard of this before.
Yeah.
They finish, right? They just finish the thing, right? Is it like a match where there's more than like a group match or something?
Well, that's very cute. a finisher is a wrestler's trademark move. So,
Oh, right.
like, they do their finishing move, their finisher.
Yeah.
Like Stone Cold Steve Austin had my favorite when I was growing up. He had the Stone Cold Stunner. Yeah, that's a finishing move.
Meh. Yeah.
Okay, so next up, we have a foreign object. Do you know what a foreign object is?
Oh my. Foreign object is when they use foreign objects.
Yeah, right. They bring in like a metal chair or the steel steps.
Oh, yeah, there's steel.
Yeah. The a baseball bat, the ring bell, whatever kind of weapon they might use that is not considered legal for that match. If they were doing like a no disqualification match or whatever, then it wouldn't make a big deal. But in a match where it's normal rules, you'll probably hear the announcer say like, "Oh, he grabbed a foreign object," kind of thing.
Yeah.
When they grab a chair or something, or a trash can or whatever.
Or a letter.
Exactly. You're getting it. You're getting it. Okay, so next I have a get over. Do you know what a get over is?
Is it going over the ring?
No. I'm glad you said that with such confidence, though.
Tell me.
So a get over is a campaign to make a wrestler more popular or make them a credible threat.
Oh.
So a recent example I would say of this is that it seems like WWE really wants Roman Reigns to be the top guy in the company, and they are going out of their way to get him over, to make him popular with the crowd. And he's popular with the crowd, but he's kind of like 50-50. Some people really like him, some people really don't, but it seems like WWE really wants to make him the guy. And, recently he teamed up with Seth Rollins and what's his face?
Seth Rollins and...
Don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now. Anyways, the three of them got back together and rejoined the Shield.
Okay.
I feel like that whole promo was to get Roman Reigns over, to get over Roman Reigns, because it would get him more popular to get that group back together rather than have him just be a solo guy.
Oh, okay.
And right now they, when The Miz took his little break, Roman Reigns fought against The Miz and beat him for the Intercontinental Championship. And Roman Reigns won that, and so I feel like that was another, get over. You get him the championship belt to help get him over. He's a champion that makes him look even more popular. Okay, so the next one is a gimmick. Do you know what a gimmick is?
Persona.
Yeah, it's a persona of somebody. So a wrestler's personality, their behavior, their attire, or whatever other traits that they have. Like they might have in-ring traits, like where they might perform certain types of moves that could be even their part of their persona.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you know what a heel is?
The bad guy.
Yeah, there you go. You got it. Yes.
Paid attention.
Yeah, you did. All right, so since you got that one, let's move on to the next one. Is do you know what a house show is?
A house show?
Yeah.
Home show?
House show.
House show. It's not like a home city show?
No, it's called a house show.
I don't know.
I'm asking you about the term a house show.
show.
Do you know what a house show is?
No,
Let you
I clearly don't.
adjust your mic.
A little bit closer.
Yeah, there you go. Talk right into it, my love. There you go.
Okay. I don't know. A little bit more.
For the video, I want them to see your beautiful face. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Big show? Is it
No.
not a
Okay.
show at all?
Anyway, so I'm just gonna let you know what a house show is.
Okay.
A house show is a non-televised show. So if you went to a wrestling match, like a a pro wrestling match that wasn't on television. They just call it a house show. Like it might be like a local type of pro wrestling promotion that's being put on
I was trying
somewhere.
to say that. It's a home city show.
Oh, well.
Which means local.
Okay.
Yeah.
If that's what you were trying to say, then maybe I'll give you a point for that. I'll decide at the end.
Okay.
I don't know if that counts.
Okay.
Okay, so our next term is kayfabe. Do you know what kayfabe means?
No.
No, I wouldn't think you would know this one. So kayfabe is the illusion and upkeep of the illusion that pro wrestling is not staged. So, you know, a wrestler, you know, is acting a certain way, you know, that they act when they're in front of the crowd, when they're doing their promotion in ring, talking on mic. If it's a bad guy, he might be real mean and talking all mean to the city or whatever, but he might actually be a really nice guy. But you know, when he goes backstage, he's actually being a nice guy. But if somebody, you know, if there's fans that had backstage passes or whatever, they might like then get back into persona. Like something like when the fans came around the corner, they'd want to be acting all mean again, so they didn't give away like, oh, you know, that I'm actually a nice guy. Like they want to keep up the illusion that, oh yeah, I'm a really bad guy, or you know, a lot of people will even keep that illusion out in public. You know, right now one of my favorite wrestlers is The Miz. I started following his Instagram, and he has really good kayfabe. Like he is constantly putting stuff on his Instagram, like calling out other wrestlers, like on his Instagram, on his little stories, and posting videos about how, you know, he's gonna kick these other wrestlers' butt. Or recently, he's been doing a lot of stuff because, like I said before, he took his little break. He fought against Roman Reigns in the championship for the Intercontinental title, and he lost to Roman Reigns, and he was a champion. And so he's been putting a lot of stuff on his Instagram, like calling out Roman Reigns, or Rolling Stone named The Miz WWE Superstar of the Year this year, and recently, but like a side-by-side picture, Miz like put Roman Reigns, some sort of article where Roman Reigns was saying that he thinks he's the best wrestler in WWE right now, and then Miz had, you know, his article of WWE Superstar of the Year of Rolling Stone with him on his picture in there right next to it, and then he wrote in the caption like, oh well, there's perception and then there's reality, you know. So he's just like keeping up the illusion of like, oh yeah, they got this feud going on. So that's kayfabe. Okay, let's next. So the next one is a mark. You would call somebody a mark. Do you know what a mark is?
A target.
No.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
This is a bad thing.
I don't know.
So what a mark is it's a slang term that would describe a fan who believes characters and events and that wrestling overall is real. Like everything is real. They think it's all real. They think this crazy storylines, like they might think, you know, it's all real. Like it's all real stuff.
Okay.
So that's what a mark is.
Oh.
Okay, next, do you know what a mouthpiece is?
Is it literally a mouthpiece?
Not a literal mouthpiece, like you're talking about one that you put in your mouth to protect your teeth?
Yeah.
No, that's not what this is referring to.
What could it possibly be? Could it be smack talk?
A mouthpiece would smack talk.
So it's a yappy wrestler?
No, in fact, this is quite the opposite. A mouthpiece is used for the exact opposite of a yappy wrestler.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and resume that. Sorry about that. But yeah, so yeah, you didn't get mouthpiece, so let's just move on. So a mouthpiece is a manager who does the promos for a wrestler with poor mic skills or no mic skills. So, have you watched anything with me where Brock Lesnar comes out and he's got that manager with him, Paul Heyman?
I think, yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, and like Brock Lesnar is just kind of like jumping around in the ring, flexing his muscles, and then Paul Heyman, gets on the mic and is talking about whoever he's going to challenge to fight. That's a mouthpiece. Paul Heyman is a mouthpiece.
Oh, okay.
So, next is a promo. Do you know what a promo is?
Is it a promotion?
Yes, a promotion. It is a promotion. So I'll use this in a sentence. So Matt Hardy, the crazy guy that our 6-year-old son loves, that's always doing the crazy laughing and going delete, delete, delete. When they put those videos up of him on screen.
Yeah.
He's cut a promo. So he cut a promo.
What? He cut a promo?
Yeah, I'm using it in a sentence. Matt Hardy cut a promo.
He's crazy?
Okay, anyways. A promo is a promotional interview or skit that advances a storyline or feud. Okay, so do you know what a signature move is?
So, it's a wrestler's signature move. Like their finisher.
No, not their finisher, though.
No, it's a different signature move?
Yeah.
Is it a move that they made up themselves? Or is it just one that they use all the time?
There you go. It's one they use all the time because the finisher is supposed to be, the finishing move that knocks out the opponent. But the signature move is a move that they perform, all the time, but is not the move that's supposed to finish the match. Again, I would say a couple signature moves from my favorite wrestler of all time, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Would do this one, was like the Lou Thesz press, where he'd jump on, he'd throw the guys against the rope, or he'd get thrown against the rope, and then he would jump up on top of the guy and then start beating them really bad. Or he would do like this mud stomp thing where he'd get the guy in the corner rope and he'd stomp him a few times, and then after he stomped him a few times, he'd start stomping him really fast like that. Or sometimes he would like get up on the ropes and then he would do like the signature elbow drop thing. Signature move, but they weren't the finishing moves.
No.
Okay, so do you know what a stable is?
Is this more about moves?
This is not about the moves.
This is, I don't know. What is a stable?
A stable is a group of wrestlers who have an alliance. So, like the Shield is a stable. The New Day, another group that our son is a fan of. The New Day, they're the ones that always come out with like either the cereal or the pancakes.
New Day.
You know the group I'm talking about?
Yes, I know the New Day.
Okay, that's what I'm asking you. Yes, they're an example of a stable. Back in the day, when I was like a big fan, we had D-Generation X, DX. That was a great stable. They had on WCW they had the NWO. That was another stable. Those groups were more than 3 people. So it's as long as it's a group of 3 or more people who have some sort of alliance.
Okay.
Okay, let's go on here to the back.
There's more.
We're on the last couple of questions here. The next one is a tweener. Do you know what a tweener is?
It sounds silly.
This is actually a term that is used not just in wrestling. It's a term used across a lot of sports, but we're going to talk about tweener in context of pro wrestling for this, obviously, since this is a show that is covering pro wrestling.
Is this a new guy?
This is not a
wrestler?
new guy.
A tweener? What is a tweener? I don't know much about.
A tweener is somebody who is neither a good guy or a bad guy. He fights anyone regardless. Examples of this would be like Stone Cold. He wasn't technically a good guy and technically wasn't a bad guy. Same thing with Triple H. Same thing with The Rock. Sometimes they kind of jumped back and forth between personas. They just were guys who were willing to fight anybody. It didn't matter who, it didn't matter if you were a good guy or a bad guy. They were going to fight you. Like, a lot of times they don't have two good guys fight each other, but for, people like Stone Cold and The Rock, even if during that time they were playing a persona where they were a good guy, they'd still be fighting other good guys because they just fought everybody and kicked butt.
Okay.
Okay, so next, you probably didn't pick this up because I came to you and told you I wanted to start this show. My wife has, lovingly agreed to do this with me.
Mm-hmm.
And at the top of this little intro show here, I said that this show is called Smark Mania. So, my next term for you and our last term is Smark. Do you know what a Smark is?
No, I don't even know what our whole thing is called.
Smark Mania. That's the name of our show, Smark Mania. I didn't even tell you because I didn't want to give it away. I didn't want you to look it up. This is part of the term of what you do or don't know about wrestling.
Okay.
And so,
I don't know.
do you know what a
Smark
Smark
means.
is? So, a Smark, and the reason why our show is called Smark Mania, a Smark is a fan of pro wrestling who is aware that the matches are scripted, but still enjoys it. And that's why it's called Smark Mania, because we are smart fans. We know that it's not real. We don't think that these people are,
No.
Matt Hardy doesn't really have some sort of... He hasn't been traveling through the cosmos and have his warriors with him, or, whatever other crazy storylines that they got going on. But we still enjoy it.
Yes, we do.
Okay. We had 28 questions there, and to be honest with you, I wasn't really keeping track of how many you got right. I didn't think to grab a pen or a pencil and mark down. So
I got all of them right.
we'll call you the winner. A for effort. So I'm going to play one more Do You Know with you. And this is Do You Know Wrestlers. And this isn't going to be anybody on current roster because you'll know the people that are currently on there. I want to go through more so the history of wrestlers, since, like I said, I've been a big fan of wrestling all my life, and you're more new to this. I want to find out who you know, who you've heard of, from, people in the past, just to get an idea on how much, you know of wrestlers.
Okay.
First one is Andre the Giant.
I know him.
Yes, I'm sure you know. He's been in...
Movies.
Yep, he's been in movies, so you would recognize him from there. His real name was Andre Rusmanov. But you know him. So the next guy, do you know who Gorilla Monsoon
No.
was? Okay, so his real name was Robert Morella. He was more known for he did a lot of commentary for WWE back in the day when it was still called WWF. Do you know who George the Animal Steel was?
No.
His name was William Myers. He was a guy, big hairy guy, had real hairy back.
Gross.
Maybe, it was George the Animal.
Oh. Just a hairy man, I guess.
Yeah, but a lot of the times he played a bad guy. Do you know who the Fabulous Moolah was?
No.
The Fabulous Moolah, her real name was Mary Ellison. She was one of the, kind of helped bring women wrestling to the forefront, one of the first women wrestlers. Back in my day, when I was old enough to be watching wrestling and watching Raw, she actually came back to wrestling, and this is when she was like in her 70s, kind of thing. And her and another wrestler would have they did skits. It was more for like comedic value, because obviously at that point in time, at that age, they weren't, tip top shape wrestlers anymore.
I believe I've seen them.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, do you know who Captain Lou Albano was?
No.
He was a manager. Guy trained a lot of wrestlers as well. Do you know who Jimmy Superfly Snuka
No.
is? His real name was James Smith. He was like this guy from Fiji. He was like really well known for doing a lot of like bringing high flying moves, like all the like jumping moves off the top ropes, to like mainstream wrestling.
Nice.
Have you ever heard of Killer Kowalski?
No.
Okay, this is from like old days. His real name was Edward Spolnick. Have you heard of Jesse the Body Ventura?
No.
James
Obviously
Janos. At one point he was governor of Minnesota. I thought maybe you would have recognized him from that.
No.
Have you heard of Sergeant Slaughter?
No.
His real name was Robert Remus, and that was his whole persona. He dressed up like a sergeant. At one point, he actually was a drill sergeant, I guess, and so as it was his in-ring persona.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Bobby the Brain Heenan?
Stopped again.
Okay, let's
Keep recording him.
yeah go ahead and let me know if you've ever heard of Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Bobby the Brain. No.
So Bobby the Brain Heenan, he was another guy, kind of more, his name was Raymond Heenan, actually, and he was a more, especially in my time, he's really well known for another being a commentator, but he did wrestle too. So the next guy, I'm going to say I never knew this guy's real name until I looked it up for this. Do you know who Terry Bollea was? This is his real name. You will know who he was when I tell you. He was Hulk Hogan, or is Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
Yes, you've heard of him. Have you heard of Rowdy Piper?
No.
Oh, Roderick Toombs. He was a really big guy in the 90s, 80s and 90s, really. He would... Can't think of it off the top of my head right now either, but he was in a famously bad movie that was like kind of like a horror movie. We'll have to look it up sometime and give that a review just for the laughs. Have you heard of the Iron Sheik?
No.
This guy was Khosrow Vaziri. He had one of those... I kind of compare him to Jinder Mahal, where he had one of those problematic personalities where they made him a bad guy just based on the country where he's from. He actually came here as like fleeing his country, and then he joined wrestling, and apparently he really loved doing what he did, and he didn't mind acting like a bad guy just because he was from another country. But that was his whole persona that they made for him, was that like, oh, he's this guy from a Middle Eastern country, and so he'd always get up there and talk about his hate for America, kind of thing. And in fact, him and Sergeant Slaughter, who we talked about earlier, ended up fighting because Sergeant Slaughter was, in America's army.
Yeah.
So they had to fight, and Sergeant Slaughter beat him and
of course.
was the champion.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Bret the Hitman Hart?
I think I have.
I think you have. I know we've mentioned him because a lot of the wrestlers who are currently on WWE roster are, have either wrestled in his camp or...
Bret Hart?
Yeah, or related to him somehow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, next up, have you heard of Eddie Guerrero?
Yes.
Okay, yep, he was a big famous guy as well. Let's see here. Have you heard of Mean Gene Okerlund?
No.
No, okay. I'm gonna start going through these kind of fast.
You getting tired, hon?
Starting to get tired. I can tell that you're getting a little tired too.
I'm always tired. It's okay.
Okay, next up, have you heard of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes?
Yes.
Yes, Virgil Reynolds Jr. He's the guy, you know, the theme music Blaine at Thanksgiving made that Pilgrim character on the WW2K game we have.
Yeah.
The WWE 2K game. He used like that American Dream song, like that was Dusty Rhodes' theme song.
Oh.
Have you heard of Jerry the King Lawler?
Probably have. I don't know. That sounds familiar.
Well,
Probably mentioned it to me, hon.
at least it sounds familiar. He's another famous ringside announcer, especially during my childhood. He was, one of the main guys that, I always like to watch MASH. In fact, I think I have talked to you about him because I've talked to you about the women's division wrestling and how much I love it now. I'm going to go ahead and pause this for a moment. Okay, and we're back. Had to take a quick pause there as our 1-year-old has awoken and joined us for the rest of the show here. Let's see where I was. Okay, was it Jerry the King Lawler? Let's go next. Have you heard of Jim Ross?
Yes.
Okay, he was my favorite ringside announcer, and I currently am subscribed to his podcast and listen to his podcast when it comes out weekly.
Yeah.
Here's another guy I know you have heard of because you've recently watched a documentary with me, so this was kind of a gimme for you. Have you heard of the Nature Boy, Ric Flair?
Yes.
Yes. Have you heard of Mae Young?
No.
Mae Young. So this was the other wrestler I was telling about that would come out with the fabulous Moolah. And, when they came back in the 90s, she was, in her 70s or whatever. But she was one of the other women that was one of the first women wrestlers back in, and helped bring it to the forefront, back in the 40s or 50s or whenever it was.
Okay.
A long time ago when those old people were young.
Yeah.
But they recently, I didn't get to watch this tournament yet. It's on the WWE Network, so we will have to get around to watching it sometime. But they just had the first one. They had it's called the Mae Young Classic, where it's like a tournament of just women wrestlers. So I'd want to watch that sometime, and maybe we'll give that a review or something, or at least watch it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's in honor of her, the Mae Young Classic. So, well, I know you've heard of this guy now because I've already mentioned it a few times. Have you heard of Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Yes.
I'm sure you had heard of him even if I wouldn't have mentioned him.
Yes.
He was so big back in the day.
Yeah, he was.
Have you heard of Gorgeous George?
No.
No, this was another guy that was back in, like, I don't know, the 50s or whenever he was wrestling, and he kind of, like, came out with his whole personality was he was a pretty boy and he would act very flamboyant when he was in the ring, kind of thing. And he was a bad guy. Have you heard of the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels?
Yes.
Yes. Have you heard of Edge?
No.
No. You might have liked him. He had this persona for a little while. He was in this group, this stable, for a little while called The Brood, where the main leader guy. Who was the leader of The Brood? Oh, there was Edge, Christian, and Gangrel was the leader guy. They were vampires.
Ooh, sexy.
Let's see. That's something we should look up at some point on the WWE networks. Find some old episodes with The Brood on it so I could show you. Because we're smarks, we know it's fake, but we still enjoy it because it's fun to watch. It's entertaining. Watch them do their silly skits like that.
Yeah.
What's up next? Have you heard of? I'll give you the names here. Mick. I'll just give you his name, Mick Foley.
Mick Foley, I think so.
Yeah, he also went by Cactus Jack, Dude Love, and Mankind.
Dude love.
Dude Love was one of his personas where he'd come out in like all tie-dye gear and he'd have like 3 women on his side or whatever.
Yeah.
It was funny because he was one ugly guy.
Mm.
But he'd come out with these hot women in his tie-dye clothes. Have you heard of Trish Stratus?
No.
She was very popular wrestler in the 90s, like when I was a young boy in the 90s watching wrestling.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching her a lot. Let's see here. Have you heard of Booker T?
Yes.
Yes, he's one of the current commentators, but he's also, he was a big wrestler back in the 90s as well. Have you heard of The Ultimate Warrior?
Yes.
When I was a kid, he was a guy that I was just a big fan of him based on like his look. Like he was so buff and he was like this warrior guy and he had face paint and he was cool. Have you heard of Jake the Snake Roberts?
I believe I have. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, a lot of these should sound familiar. Well, anyways, a lot of these should sound familiar because I pulled these all from the list of WWE Hall of Fame. So these should be the most well-known people of wrestling history. Have you heard of Lita?
No.
Okay, her real name is Amy Dumas, and she was like, Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy. She was like their valet for a while, and then she also wrestled and was a women's champion like 6 times or something like that.
Oh, cool.
Next up, Paul Bearer.
That sounds familiar.
Well, his real name was Willie Moody, and he was kind of like the manager and mouthpiece of Undertaker and then Kane.
Okay.
Back in the 90s. He was really good, and he was one of those guys that was very entertaining to watch. Have you heard of Macho Man Randy Savage?
I have.
Yes, of course. Have you heard of Alundra Blaze?
No.
She also went by Medusa. Her real name was Deborah Michelli. Here's a guy that I really liked back in the 90s as well, because I just loved his whole look. His look like came straight out of... Did you ever watch the movie The Crow?
Yes.
So this is what he based his look on in the 90s when he was wrestling with WCW, and he'd always he had his face paint like that, and he'd like always be wearing like leather stuff, but he went by Sting. Do you know Sting?
No, I don't know Sting.
Okay, we'll have to look him up sometime. He was really cool, just his whole look. I know you've heard of the next one because we see him on a lot of current shows that we watch now. Kurt Angle.
Yes, I have heard of Kurt Angle.
Have you ever heard of Diamond Dallas Page?
No.
DDP. He was really big for WCW back in the 90s. He had his, he has some sort of yoga thing now. I'm always hearing, advertised on wrestling shows that I listen to, wrestling podcasts that I listen to. Next up, so those were all wrestlers. I'm going to name a few other guys that I know you heard of, but just to give you an idea of who else is in the WWE Hall of Fame, have you heard of Drew Carey?
Drew Carey?
Yes.
A wrestler named Drew Carey?
The Drew Carey.
Yes, yeah.
He's in the WWE Hall of Fame. That's what I'm saying.
What?
These next guys are not necessarily wrestlers, but they're in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Clearly I wasn't paying attention to you. I'm so sorry.
Like most of the time. Anyways, yes, Drew Carey is in the WWE Hall of Fame
Cool.
as he competed and was entered in the 2001 Royal Rumble. Actually, if I remember right, he like ran out to the ring. I don't actually like. This is only my memory. I haven't watched it in. That was 2001. It's 2018 now, so that was like 17 years ago.
Mhm.
But if I remember right, like he ran out to the ring, got in, and then promptly got thrown out in that year's Royal Rumble. Next up,
Nice.
have you heard of Mike Tyson?
Yes.
Yes, Mike Tyson is also in the WWE Hall of Fame as he was in a famous matchup at a WrestleMania where he had for a while in promotions been joining up with DX, but then at the end turned and helped Stone Cold Steve Austin beat Shawn Michaels in a match. And next, I know you've heard of this guy because you hear about him all the time in the news. He is our current president, Donald Trump. Have you heard of him?
Yes, I have.
Yes, he is in the WWE Hall of Fame. He has never wrestled, but he's been involved in wrestling in different storylines throughout. You know,
a couple of clips.
Yeah. I'm sure you have seen clips of Donald Trump in wrestling. He has been involved. But yeah, so that's the end of that. Again, I didn't really keep track of how many you got right. Maybe on our next show, after I'll listen back to this recording and just see exactly how many you got, and
you'll tell me.
I'll let you know on our next show.
Probably not that many, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I tried.
that's what counts, honey. A for effort.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's gonna be our little very long introduction episode that is just introducing.
I was told it was going to be short.
It was short. This is just introducing our show, letting you know who we are, what the show is going to be about. I'm looking forward to doing this on a weekly basis with you.
Me too.
Plan on, doing it at the end of the week, each week, maybe on Fridays or Saturdays. Haven't really set a date, like a schedule yet, guys, but we're thinking, so, we'll definitely watch the Monday Night Raw, the Tuesday SmackDown Live each week, and then however much other wrestling we can fit in, and then check back in with you guys at the end of the week and give you our reactions to the matches that happened during that week. And then also whatever pay-per-views, like Royal Rumble is coming up this Sunday. We'll do reaction episodes where maybe we get on the mics right after a pay-per-view and just kind of react to what we just witnessed, and then review it again later in that week, but just get like a quick reaction of what we thought. But thank you again, guys. Again, our show name is Smark Mania for the smart wrestling fan. Thank you for tuning in to our show.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, just jumping back in at the end here. We forgot to mention to go ahead and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and email us. We are That's Good Stuff. That is That's Good Stuff. Find us on all those things. You can also email us at that's good stuff @gmail.com. Go ahead, guys, give us a response. We'd love to hear back from you guys. We're going to be posting our podcast on the Anchor podcast, which has a callback feature, so go ahead and use that as well. Leave us some messages. We just want to, have a community out there with other fans of pro wrestling. So, yeah. Thanks for listening again, and look us up again. Twitter, Instagram, email us. All right, thanks, guys.
That's good stuff.